The trial of 5 men accused of the murder of former Bafana and Orlando Pirates goalkeeper Senzo Meyiwa will resume in the High Court in Pretoria this morning. The matter was postponed yesterday following the breakdown of the court's recording equipment after the lunch break. Meyiwa was shot and killed during an alleged robbery in 2014 at the Foster's home of his girlfriend Kelly Khumalo's mother. The forensic officer to first arrive at the scene, Sergeant Thabo Mosia, will continue to testify. During cross-examination, he conceded that he did not have the skills acquired when he attended the crime scene, as he only obtained his BTech degree in 2019. That was 5 years after the incident. He also said he found it strange that there were traces of blood in the lounge and not on the kitchen floor, where Meyiwa is said to have been shot. Our reporter, Chriselda Lewis, is there at the High Court in Pretoria to give us more from there. So, Chriselda, good morning to you again. So yesterday, an early day in the court, problems with the equipment. What's going on?
Well, that's right, Leanne. An early adjournment yesterday as a result of the court recorder that had been a bit faulty. What we understand is that we'll proceed inside this court this morning. We have technicians inside the court just behind me that are working on the equipment at the moment, but we're told no need to panic at this stage. We will be operating inside this court once again. And from where I was standing, the forensic detective Thabo Mosia back on the stand again, Advocate Zandile Mshololo, who's already arrived in court, will continue her cross-examination of him. Accusations yesterday that he had tampered with evidence and that essentially he did not store or make a record of the exhibits that he had found at the crime scene where Senzo Meyiwa was killed immediately, because the defense believes that he tampered with some of that evidence. Crucial aspects of what he was supposed to have done. You'd recall that his qualifications also coming under question yesterday. The defense pointing to the fact that he was only a year into his qualification for the job that he's currently doing when he attended to the crime scene in Foster's on that day of the 26th of October in 2014 when the killing had taken place. Also, critical aspects, asking him if he had gone to the hospital. For example, you would recall that Senzo Meyiwa had been taken to the hospital by an occupant or occupants of the house, and he was taken in his car. Remember that had previously come inside court where Advocate Zandile Mshololo had asked whether Senzo Meyiwa's car was at the scene when Thabo Mosia had arrived. And in this instance, what we're hearing inside court is that Thabo Mosia didn't bother to check for any blood samples within Senzo Meyiwa's car, given the fact that it was used to take him to the hospital. And there is an allegation that he had been bleeding inside that vehicle. Also, you would have heard witness statements previously, also being here inside court, of witnesses, neighbors who had basically said that there'd been tampering of the scene. There was water that was found on the floor, and also one of the neighbors, Maggie Peary, had been picking up alcohol cans from the floor. When she was asked by one of the other individuals who gave a statement here to this particular court, was that she asked Maggie Peary why she was picking up the alcohol cans from the floor, and she had indicated that she didn't want police to see that the people inside the house, the occupants, had been drinking. So the defense really relying on an aspect, you would recall, Leanne, from previously how police had responded to the scene. Also the fact that they did not secure the scene while on time. They did not arrive at the scene in time enough to ensure that nobody was going to tamper with that scene. Also, there were exhibits also beamed inside court. You would know that some of those exhibits showed blood stains that had been in the lounge area. Advocate Zandile Mshololo asking why there had not been any blood on the floor in the kitchen, where Mosia agrees that's where the scuffle took place. he literally told the court that he was also surprised. So how do you have a forensic detective who was surprised by the fact that he says that the scuffle had taken place, or alleged scuffle had taken place inside the kitchen, but there is no blood stains that had been found there on the floor. And also, one of the critical aspects, if you have the body of Senzo Meyiwa that was removed from the scene, the defense contends that on its own is a tampering with the scene, and that he didn't even bother to check if any blood stains or samples, had been taken from the car itself, which was used to transport Senzo Meyiwa. So a lot in terms of questioning whether he was even capable to attend to that. He was underqualified is certainly what the defense is pointing to. Underqualified to deal with that scene with the level of experience that he claims he has, and also the fact that he didn't do the basic forensic work that was supposed to be done at that scene. So a heavy reliance on the defense of advocate Zandile Mshololo, representing accused number 5, that scene had been tampered with from the word go, and that police simply did not do their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what's been coming out of this. I mean, from, as you say, the lack of qualifications to attend to a scene like this, the fact that the scene was cleaned and changed, the bullet, the blood marks, the fact that these weren't examined in the car. I mean, this has to tell you that this case is showing massive holes of being a big bungle. I mean, we know this already. It's taken so long to get to this point, but the evidence that's coming out is really not looking good for this case.
Well, absolutely, Leanne. In this instance, remember that the defense has long contended that the men sitting in the dock answering to charges relating to the murder of Senzo Meyiwa are mere scapegoats. Recall that in the past, you had advocate Malisela Tifo also want to bring a special plea, and within that plea, what he wanted was the occupants of that house on the night that Senzo Meyiwa was killed to be the ones to be in the dock to answer to charges of killing Senzo Meyiwa, including Kelly Khumalo. An assertion that had also been made that Kelly Khumalo had, shot and killed Senzo Meyiwa by mistake. So what he basically contended was that we're simply wasting time inside court. The 5 men that are sitting here are not those, according to the defense, who are responsible for killing Senzo Meyiwa. And in fact, it is those occupants that were in the house at the time that should be here answering to those charges. But you must also recall, when you say it doesn't look good in this instance, Leanne, remember, no statements in terms of Musia asking the occupants of the house where Senzo Meyiwa was killed. He was also asked, whether he had interviewed by way of trying to establish where Senzo Meyiwa had been killed. He didn't bother to ask any of the occupants in the house. He did not take swabs from, the hands, gunshot residue from the hands of the occupants in the house to establish if any of them had pulled the trigger. He didn't, he basically relied on what he was told by his so-called senior, Brigadier Philani Ndlovu, whose name has continuously come up in this particular trial. So at this particular point, you would recall as well the bullet that had been found on the table, the kitchen table. This was only found on the second visit that Musia had made to the house. So the defense insinuating at this point that this evidence, this bullet cartridge, which is what we believe want to link that bullet cartridge to the weapon which was supposedly used to shoot and kill Senzo Meyiwa. The assertion is that had been planted there. So what the defense is basically saying is that the police didn't do their job at all. What they were supposed to do, that simply overlooked. The scene had been handed over to somebody who did not even provide an address to the first forensic detective who had attended to the scene, and that basically a lot had been done prior to his arrival, including tampering of the scene and the planting of evidence before Thabo Musia had arrived.
Yeah. Just final question, Chriselda. I mean, more than 100 witnesses expected. This is what we've been told, or up to 120 witnesses. We're still on witness number 1. Are we nearly done with Sergeant Musia? I mean, do we know who the other witnesses are?
Far from it, very far from it, Leanne. We have not yet seen the beginning, if I may, of this particular trial. I mean, with the testimony of Thabo Mosia, I don't know when we were expecting, the advocate Sandile Mshololo to complete her cross-examination of Thabo Mosia, but I would expect it's quite a couple of days for that to happen. Sandile Mshololo already has arrived here. Advocate, perhaps any indication when you'll be done with cross-examination? Not yet. By the end of the week, perhaps? A couple of more days. I'm lucky again, Leanne. In a couple of days, so that's when we were expecting Advocate Sandile Mshololo to complete her cross-examination of Thabo Mosia. So a couple of more days before we see the next witness here, but already damning on the part of police in terms of what they did not do when they first attended to the crime scene where Senzo Meyiwa was killed.
There we go. As always, superb. Thanks so much. Chriselda Lewis getting it from the horse's mouth. So this is going to go on for at least the remainder of this week into next week as well. That cross-examination from Advocate Mshololo, talking to her in the courtroom at the High Court right now. Chriselda, thanks.